I devoted my life to my husband. He left me for his pregnant mistress after calling me too heavy. I never thought I'd be the type of woman to write something like this. I used to read stories about heartbreak, betrayal, and people discovering their partners were living double lives, and I would think, that could never be me. My marriage is solid. We love each other. God, I wish I'd been right. My name is Emily, I'm 35, and up until 6 months ago, I was married to Daniel for 11 years. We met in college. I was 24, fresh out of school, working 2 part-time jobs and trying to figure out my life. Daniel was in his last year of law school, charming, ambitious, and so attentive that he made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. I was there for him through every step, the bar exam, his unpaid internships, the long nights where I stayed up making coffee while he studied. I worked extra shifts so he could focus on his career without worrying about money. I was proud to do it. I believed in him, in us. For years, I put myself last. Meals were skipped or rushed. I'd grab whatever was quick so I could get back to work or back to helping him. My weight started creeping up, slowly at first. 10 pounds. Then 20. I told myself it was temporary, that once his career stabilized, we'd both have time for ourselves again. When he finally made partner at his firm, I thought, this is it. We made it. He bought himself a new car, upgraded his wardrobe, and started going to the gym religiously. I thought maybe we could do it together, a fresh chapter. But instead, he started making little comments. You'd be so much prettier if you lost a little. Maybe you should try keto. My coworker's wife lost 30 pounds in 2 months. It's just not healthy, Em. I'm worried about you. It was never outright cruel, but it chipped away at me. Then came her. Her name is Jessica. She's 27, a paralegal at his firm. The first time I saw her, it was at a company Christmas party. She was tall, thin, blonde, with one of those perfect gym-toned bodies you see on fitness ads. She smiled at me, complimented my dress, and told me how lucky I was to be married to Daniel. I didn't think much of it then. I trusted him. But over the next few months, Daniel started working late more often. His phone was always face down. He started dressing nicer for work, buying cologne he'd never worn before. One night, I decided to surprise him with dinner at his office. His secretary looked startled when I walked in. Oh. I thought you knew he left early with Jessica, she said, before quickly changing the subject. My stomach sank. A week later, I found the messages. I wasn't even snooping, his laptop was open, and an iMessage notification popped up. Can't wait to feel you inside me again tonight. My blood ran cold. There were hundreds of messages. Flirty texts, explicit photos, conversations about how I let myself go, and how he deserved someone who took care of herself. He told her I was boring. That I used to be hot, but now I was just a roommate. The worst part? They were talking about their baby. She was 3 months pregnant. I confronted him that night. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just asked him if it was true. He didn't deny it. He actually looked relieved, like a weight had been lifted. I can't do this anymore. I need more than what we have. I've been unhappy for years. You've changed. I stared at him, wondering if he even remembered all the years I changed for him. The sacrifices I made. The dreams I put on hold. The way I worked myself into exhaustion so he could succeed. He moved out a week later. Into her apartment. At first, I felt like I was drowning. I could barely eat. My hands would shake when I tried to sleep. I replayed every conversation we'd had over the past year, looking for clues I missed. Then came the shame, the way some people looked at me with pity, others with judgment. My own mother said, well, maybe this is a sign to take better care of yourself. It took me 3 months to realize this wasn't my fault. Yes, I had gained weight. Yes, I was tired and not the energetic 24-year-old he met. But marriage is supposed to be more than that. He didn't leave because I wasn't thin, he left because he's selfish. Because he wanted the rush of someone new, someone who didn't remind him of responsibility and bills and real life. And now, I've started therapy. I joined a women's support group. I'm slowly getting back into hobbies I loved before him, painting, hiking, cooking for myself instead of rushing through meals. I've lost some weight, not because I'm trying to win him back, but because I'm finally taking care of me. The other day, he called. Said Jessica was moody and that things aren't what he thought they'd be. He hinted that he misses what we had. I laughed. Out loud. Then I hung up. Because I know now, the woman he married is gone, not because of the weight, but because I finally realized I deserve so much more. After I hung up on Daniel, my hands were shaking, but not from sadness. It was adrenaline. For the first time since he left, I didn't feel powerless in the conversation. I didn't feel like the woman begging for scraps of his attention. Still, the call left a strange aftertaste. He hadn't called to apologize, not really. He had called because he wasn't happy, and like always, his first instinct was to look for me to fix it. The next morning, I told my therapist, Dr. Karen, about the call. She smiled, not the condescending kind, but the gentle, "I'm proud of you," kind. "Emily," she said, "do you realize what just happened? He came looking for the old dynamic. You taking responsibility for his feelings, and you didn't give it to him. That's growth." I left her office lighter that day. Rebuilding myself. I started putting together what I called my reclaim list. It was a notebook page where I wrote down all the things I'd put on hold for Daniel. Some were small. Take a pottery class. Go to Italy like I'd always dreamed. Wear bright colors again instead of slimming blacks and grays. Some were big. Start my own catering business. Run a 10K, not for weight loss, but to prove I could finish. At first, I thought it was silly, but every time I crossed one off, it felt like I was taking another brick out of the wall he'd built around my life. The rumors. 3 months after the call, I ran into an old friend of ours, Claire, at the farmer's market. She hesitated before telling me, but eventually it spilled out. Jessica had the baby early. There were complications. Daniel's been struggling. Apparently, Jessica wasn't happy about motherhood. She'd been posting cryptic messages online about feeling trapped and missing her freedom. People whispered that she'd been out drinking just weeks after giving birth, leaving Daniel with the baby. I wish I could say I felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sad. Not for him, exactly, but for the baby. A child shouldn't be born into a relationship built on lies and lust. The chance meeting. 2 weeks later, I bumped into Daniel at the grocery store. I was in leggings and a hoodie, hair in a messy bun, not dressed to impress, but he still froze when he saw me. "Emily, wow. You look different," he said. I had lost weight, but more than that, I was carrying myself differently. Confidently. My posture wasn't hunched like I was apologizing for existing. We chatted briefly, about nothing important, but I could see it in his eyes. Regret. He wasn't looking at me like a roommate anymore. As I walked away, he called after me, "Maybe we could grab coffee sometime." I smiled politely. "I don't think that's a good idea, Daniel. Take care of yourself." The letter. A month later, a handwritten letter arrived in my mailbox. From him. In it, Daniel admitted that leaving me had been the worst mistake of his life. He wrote about how Jessica changed after the baby, how she didn't love him the way I did. How he missed my laugh, my cooking, the way I used to believe in him. He asked if I'd consider meeting to talk about us. I didn't respond. The turning point. Instead, I booked a solo trip to Italy. It had been at the top of my reclaim list for years. I walked through Florence, ate pasta in Rome without counting calories, stood on the Amalfi Coast and thought, I am here because I chose me. While I was there, I got an email from Claire. Jessica had moved out. Left Daniel with the baby. No warning. I stared at the screen for a long time. The old me would have felt sorry for him. Maybe even offered to help. But I wasn't her anymore. Closure. 2 weeks after I returned, Daniel showed up at my door. Not uninvited exactly, he texted first, but I almost didn't answer. When I opened it, he looked older. Tired. There were bags under his eyes, his once perfect hair unkempt. He was holding a photo of us from our wedding day. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, he said. I ruined the best thing in my life. I nodded. I know you are. But that doesn't change anything. He looked like he wanted to argue, but I kept going. Daniel, the woman in that photo? She's gone. And I like the woman I am now a lot better. He swallowed hard, nodded, and left. I closed the door and locked it, not out of fear, but because it was symbolic. That chapter was over. Today. It's been a year since he left. I've grown my catering business to the point where I quit my old job. I run in the mornings. I paint on weekends. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully. Sometimes I think about how close I came to losing myself completely. How I almost believed I wasn't worth loving because of a number on a scale. But now. I'm happier, stronger, and freer than I've ever been. And the best part? I did it without him. If anyone needs to hear this, your value doesn't decrease because someone can't see it. Sometimes losing them is the best way to find yourself. When the past knocked one last time. It's funny how you think certain chapters in your life are closed, and then, out of nowhere, they come knocking, testing whether you've really moved on. It had been nearly a year and a half since I last saw Daniel on my doorstep. My catering business was thriving, my mornings were filled with runs by the lake, and I was seeing someone new, Alex, a gentle, soft-spoken man who actually listened when I talked and didn't treat my ambitions like distractions from his. Alex and I weren't serious yet, but I liked where things were going. He knew about my marriage, the affair, and the divorce. He never pried, but he also didn't flinch when I mentioned the hard parts. That alone felt like a miracle. The unexpected call. One Tuesday afternoon, while I was prepping for a weekend wedding gig, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said, just pick it up. Emily. It's Jessica. I froze. Her voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable compared to the confident, flirty tone I remembered from that Christmas party years ago. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, she said quickly. But I need to talk to you. It's about Daniel. And the baby. Meeting Jessica. We met at a small cafe downtown. I went in with zero expectations, and a healthy amount of suspicion. She was thinner than I remembered, but not in a healthy way. Her eyes were tired, her skin pale. She didn't waste time. I left him because I couldn't take it anymore, she said, wrapping her hands around her coffee like it was the only warm thing in her life. He's not who I thought he was. He can't handle stress. He yells. She hesitated. He's drinking a lot. I didn't say anything. I wasn't there to offer comfort, but I also didn't want to gloat. She looked down. I thought you should know, he's been telling people you ruined his life. That you turned people against him. And now, he's trying to get full custody. He says I'm unfit. The dilemma. I'll admit it, my first thought was, not my circus, not my monkeys. But the idea of Daniel raising that child alone made my stomach twist. Whatever Jessica's flaws, that baby didn't ask to be born into this mess. I'm not getting involved, I told her. I've spent too many years cleaning up his problems. That's not my life anymore. She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. I wanted you to know what he's capable of. I thought you, of all people, would understand. And she wasn't wrong. I did understand. Daniel's last reach. A month later, Daniel emailed me. Not a short note, a novel. He wrote about how everything was falling apart, how Jessica had betrayed him, how he couldn't trust anyone anymore. And then, the kicker. I think about us all the time. Maybe if we started over, things could be different. I need you, Emily. I stared at the email for a long time before deleting it without replying. Because here's the truth, he didn't miss me. He missed the version of me that held him together. The unpaid therapist. The emotional crutch. The woman who gave up her dreams to make his easier. That woman doesn't exist anymore. Building a new life. By summer, Alex and I decided to take a week-long trip to Maine. We stayed in a little cabin by the water, cooked fresh seafood, and hiked trails that left my legs sore but my heart full. One night, sitting by the fire, Alex said, "I don't know everything you've been through, but I'm glad you didn't let it break you." And for the first time, I realized, I hadn't just survived what Daniel did to me. I'd built something better. The final knock. In October, I was home on a rainy afternoon when there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Daniel, soaked, eyes bloodshot, swaying slightly. The smell of alcohol hit me instantly. "Emily, please," he slurred. "I don't have anyone else. I made a mistake. I should have stayed with you. You're the only one who ever cared." It would have been easy to let the past flood back in, to remember the good times, to feel pity. But instead, I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and said, "Daniel, you need help. Real help. And you're not going to find it here." He stared at me for a long moment before turning and walking away into the rain. I watched until he was gone. Where I am now. It's been 2 years since my marriage ended. My business is stable. My health, mental and physical, is the best it's been since my 20s. I'm still with Alex, and for the first time, I believe I can have a relationship without losing myself in it. Daniel? I don't know where he is now. I don't want to. Jessica? I heard she moved in with her sister and is trying to get shared custody. I hope she gets her life together, for her child's sake. As for me, I've learned that closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself when you choose not to reopen old wounds. I chose me. And I'm never going back. If anyone needs a reminder, you don't owe your past anything except the lessons you've learned from it. A different kind of promise. 6 months after Daniel showed up at my door for the last time, Alex and I were sitting in my kitchen on a quiet Sunday morning, sipping coffee. The sunlight hit the counter just right, making everything feel warmer than it should for late winter. "I have a question," Alex said, almost shyly. "Not the big kind, but important." I laughed. "Okay, now I'm curious." He pulled a small envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside was a brochure for a seaside cottage on the coast of Maine, for sale. "I think we could make it ours," he said. "Not just a getaway. A home." I felt my throat tighten. For years, home had meant a place I worked to maintain for someone else, a place that always felt like it could be taken away. Now, it meant something I could choose, somewhere built on mutual effort, not sacrifice. I smiled. "Let's go see it." And that's how, a few months later, I found myself unpacking boxes in a sunlit kitchen that overlooked the ocean. It wasn't a grand, movie-worthy ending, just the quiet certainty that I was where I was supposed to be. Not because someone else put me there. Because I walked there myself. 1 year later, and I don't recognize my old life. It's been a year since Alex and I moved into the cottage. A year since I left behind the city apartment with all its ghosts and started fresh in a place where the loudest thing in the morning is the sound of gulls. Some days, it still surprises me how far I've come. I'll be watering my little herb garden or baking bread for a weekend order, and I'll think about the woman I was 3 years ago, scared, exhausted, convinced that if I just tried harder, Daniel would see me again. I wish I could go back and tell her, you don't need him to see you. You need to see yourself. Alex and I are steady. Not perfect, no couple is, but we talk about things before they turn into fights, we split responsibilities without keeping score, and we laugh more than I thought possible after everything I've been through. I haven't heard from Daniel in almost 2 years. A mutual acquaintance mentioned he moved out of state. I didn't ask where. Jessica sent me one message last Christmas, just a photo of her daughter with the words, "She's doing great." I didn't reply, but I smiled when I saw it. The old version of me thought closure came from getting answers or apologies. Now I know it comes from building a life you wouldn't trade for the past, even if you could. And as I sit here, looking out at the ocean with my coffee in hand, I can honestly say, I wouldn't trade this for anything.